All right, it's time to talk basketball. I'm Jose Salviati, editor at thepeachbasket.net. He's Steve Purciello, a longtime educator, vice principal, high school basketball coach, and athletic director. And this is the Shot Clock Pod, the best 24 minutes of NBA Random Thoughts online anywhere. That's right. If you missed our show last week, we used to be the best 15 minutes. Now we're the best 24 minutes. We expanded our shot clock because we never once made the shot clock before. And this makes more sense, right? Players have 24 seconds to shoot. We have 24 minutes to chat. This podcast was born out of the content of Steve's 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts articles, which he publishes weekly. Steve and I have exactly 24 minutes to discuss what's on his mind around the NBA. Today, we'll discuss his latest 13 Rules Random NBA Thoughts article, where he shares his thoughts on the 8 most interesting teams in the Western Conference. We did 7 Eastern Conference teams last week. Apparently, there are more interesting teams in the West Coast. Let's talk about it. Steve, ready?
We're ready.
Let's do it. I'm going to start the timer. All right, and we're off. Seeing as how we've got 8 over 7, we're going to have to give each one just a little less time than we did if we want to make the shot clock. Let's see how things play out. We'll start with what you listed as the 8 most interesting team in the Western Conference. This is a team that could go either way, in my opinion, the Dallas Mavericks. You called out that if Kyrie comes back, they're dangerous. Stephen A. Smith recently said he could see them winning it all, which I think is a little ridiculous. But what makes the Mavs interesting?
Well, Kyrie Irving, first of all, if he comes back and he's healthy, from what I've read, he's not really rushing to come back. He's waiting till he's just right. But if he can play, it changes everything. And then the other interesting piece is Cooper Flag. How good is he? And how good is his immediate impact? I think he'll be good, but the immediate impact, if it's there, all of a sudden you've got something. You also have Anthony Davis, who we forgot because he was hurt most of last year, probably one of the best defensive big men in the game. So suddenly their defense is pretty good. Plus, Davis won't have the strain of playing the 5 all the time because he's got Lively and Gafford with him.
Yeah.
They've got some players. They've got a bunch of good players. They're very dangerous. I could see them, if they're healthy with Kyrie, being a problem. Now, there's one other interesting thing that I'll bring up, and I think of him as a jinx. They did go out and sign DeAngelo Russell in case Kyrie doesn't come back, figuring that he can. But you know what? Everywhere DeAngelo goes, but he's waving goodbye and saying, "We're glad you're gone."
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a tremendous move or not. And I think DeAngelo, for him to be fully effective, he needs a really good player around him that keeps him in line. I don't know if Dallas really has that leader that can do it. Klay Thompson, I don't know, because he's coming to the end and he's not the player he once was. So I don't know if that, but when he played with the Nets a couple of years ago, he's an all-star. He can shoot. He goes in stretches where he can't miss when he's right. But he's one of those guys that never met a shot he didn't like. So there's a lot to it. But I think they're dangerous. I think they're a good team.
Yeah. Undeniable, agree on every point, and it's wild to think this is the 8th most interesting team. There's a lot of interesting teams in the West. Let's jump to the next one. This is a team that, again, is on the tail end of their career, at their peak as a franchise, the Golden State Warriors. A lot of things in flux in San Francisco. What's going on? What makes them interesting?
I refer to them, the Lakers and the Clippers, as the over the hill gangs. They are interesting because when they did get Butler last year and everything was healthy, they did really well. And Draymond was predicting a title. Then Butler got hurt in the playoffs and everything fell out the window. So I look at them as good. I don't think they'll break 50 wins on a great year because there's going to be a lot of nights on back-to-backs. Guys are sitting out. And of those 3, the other things that are interesting is Jonathan Kuminga. What are we doing? It's getting close.
Right.
Got to make some calls on this. And then are you getting Al Horford? They're waiting to see the money situation before they do these things. And also Gary Payton Jr. These are 3 guys they need because if you look their warriors after those three. They do have Pajemski and Moses Moody, who are good. Pajemski's a lot better, but role players. So what exactly? You need some more depth. Quentin Post is a nice shooting big who he's at best average on a good day. He'll hit the three, but he gives away a lot on the other end. And they really have no size. And Horford, if they do get Horford, he's their big. But again, he doesn't play back to back. And is he going to play 30 minutes? I don't see that. So they still need big people. So and there's a lot missing. But you know what? One thing I learned, you never downplay Jimmy Butler's value and Steph Curry's value. On any given night, they can go off. So they're dangerous and they're good. But they're old.
Yeah. And they're not done, right? Here we are weeks away from the start of the preseason, and they've still got balls in the air. It's silly. So we'll see how things settle in San Francisco. Let's shift our focus to the other team in the over-the-hill gang. This is the team I covered. I know the Los Angeles Clippers. A lot of offseason moves, a lot for the Clippers. What do you see for them? What makes them interesting?
I'll tell you what, and they got 4 guys they brought in. They brought Bradley Beal. Now, if nothing else, he's going to have something to prove. So if he can stay healthy, he could play. He could still shoot and he could still score. That's a good one. John Collins, they brought in very quietly. He had a pretty good year with Utah last year, and he's a nice player. He's a good player. He's a good 4 that's overlooked quite often, but he does things right. When he was with Atlanta, he wanted to win first. He says the right things. I don't think he's as bad as people. He doesn't have a great deal of value in the league. They also brought Brook Lopez. I don't know what exactly they're going to do when they got Zubac. So I don't quite understand that, but Brook Lopez might have something left, and maybe he plays 15, 20 minutes a night. He can give you a good 20 every night, and he can shoot the ball. So that's a thing. And then Chris Paul, who probably is there to back up Harden and give you 15 minutes a night and let things go. Now, don't forget, you have James Harden and Zubac and the big factor in this whole thing. Because the Clippers they can get into the finals, and who knows? What? It's Kawhi Leonard's show. If he can get healthy, look out. But again, he'll sit out. So I don't look to them as being high in the standings in the Western Conference, meaning in the top 2 or 3. But when the playoffs come, if all's good and everybody's ready to go, you got a problem because they've got, there's some, I didn't name some, Nicholas Batum. They've got some players that they go deep and they can play. So they're really, of the 3 over the hill teams, I think they're the best of the 3. And I think they can play.
Okay. Yeah, again, no notes, man. I agree with all of that. I think the Clippers have ever since the Kawhi era really began in Los Angeles, their goal was to survive the regular season, just to get into the playoffs healthy and then roll the dice. And I don't think that changes this year.
When you have a player like that, who is when he's healthy, one of the 5 or 10 best in the league, if you have a player like that, you just want to get to the playoffs and then hope he's okay.
That's right.
He's on the downside of his career, but James Harden's not bad. They've got two former superstars, still good players. Kawhi's still good, really good, if he can. So that's
been the mantra for the Clippers for the last 5-6 years. But let's move on to the last team in the Over the Hill gang. We'll stay in LA to discuss the revamped Lakers, the Luka Doncic Lakers. What makes them interesting? I think there's a lot to talk about here. Go ahead.
I think this summer was a soap opera with LeBron. I think LeBron's a very intelligent man, and I think he's not stupid enough to cause a problem. But if he causes a problem, they're done. They're done. And I know this is the first time in his life where everything doesn't revolve around LeBron. And how he handles it is going to determine what the Lakers are going to do. But the other factor here, I don't know if they have enough talent to compete with the big boys in the league. Yeah. They did get DeAndre Ayton, and you never know what you're going to get out of him. I don't
Yeah.
think he complements Luka real well because Luka wants a big that can roll to the basket and take the
Right.
ball and hurt you. I don't know if Ayton wants the ball in the post. He's an old-time player, and he likes to shoot the ball after he gets it in the post. So I don't know if that complements each other. And
Yeah.
Ayton is not really that shot blocker that they need. So I think with a team like the Lakers, they're close. So they go out and they don't have money to spend. Because of the cap, they go out and they just bring in talent and hope it fits. And that's where the Lakers are at this point.
Yeah.
And I kind of look at them as a lower, maybe sixth and possibly a play-in team.
Yeah.
And I
That's
don't
shocking.
I don't see them having a shot unless they bring in somebody who can help them of getting to the finals.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I wish I could stand up for the local team, but yeah, but and I said things are messy, man. Things are
What's
messy.
good out there about
Oh, it's like it always is. There's excitement. Everything's going to work our way. And listen, this is what I think is going to happen with the Los Angeles Lakers because there's excitement around Luka. He's trimmed down, so they say, because we hear that every offseason. But I do think they're going to get off to a really, really good start. Excuse me, because I like the core team, and I think they're gonna get off to a good start. And then what's gonna start to happen is we're gonna start to see some problems arise. I don't know what those are, but this is the MO for this team. Maybe they'll find a defensive weakness. Other teams will start to see what's going on and learn how to exploit it. And then they're gonna hit a rough spot, and that's gonna be the teller, right? When that tough spot comes, what's gonna happen with the Los Angeles Lakers?
something else
But
that I wanted to add, and this is interesting. Everybody knows LeBron James is probably the hardest working player in the league.
sure,
He took up golf this summer. I wonder how hard the work is, but I wonder if he's slowed it down a little bit
okay,
because he's seeing a retirement coming. He understands the situation. He makes too much money to be traded. And what team's going to take a risk for 1 year? I know they talk about
right.
but why would Cleveland give up Darius Garland and something else to match the money guy they're going to get for 1 year? Cleveland wants a title, but I think that would be suicide. So
Yeah.
it's really an interesting situation.
Yeah. As always, that is just par for the course in La Land. Let's move to Denver. The Nuggets. They also made some improvements, and I think they look better. You called it out. They got better in the offseason. What makes the Nuggets interesting?
Well, they wanted a bench for the first time with Bruce Brown, Hardaway, and Jonas. And probably the best thing about that, besides how Bruce Brown, if you forgot, he was there when they won the title. And he was a key factor. Him and Jokic play well together. What you also, the most important thing they did was bringing in Jonas Valanciunas. Is now, when you watch Denver play, what you'll see for Denver is they'll take Jokic out, and usually in the second quarter, and if they're getting beat up, they'll get him right back in. So he's playing a large amount of minutes. Hopefully, Valanciunas takes away those minutes from him, and that's a key factor in this. They still have Jamal Murray. They still have Aaron Gordon. They have Christian Brown, who's going to get better, and he can shoot. There's Peyton Watson. They've got some players. And with the bench, like I said, they're dangerous. And I think if they have a good shot of getting to the finals in the conference, I don't think they're good enough to beat OKC. But again, you never know in this stuff. And I think they're a team to be reckoned with, is the best way to put it. And with Jokic, anything can happen because he's so good. He's the best, undoubtedly the best guy in the league.
Yep. Yeah, no argument for me. And I think Denver's got a lot riding on it because his contract expires soon. They either have to re-sign him or he's gone.
Well, if they didn't re-sign him, that might be the dumbest thing that anybody can do besides trading Anthony Davis for Luka or trading Luka for Anthony Davis, because it would just be ridiculous. So I'm sure they're going to re-up him as long as he wants to play. They'll keep him around. He's good. And you know what? He's got the kind of game that even as he ages, I don't know if it'll have, tiredness might be the only thing, but his game, he won't lose that. He'll be able to play because if you watch him go to the basket, it's in slow motion. But
Yeah, undeniable. All right, interesting times ahead in Denver for sure. Let's move then to probably the team that made the biggest splash in the offseason, and that's the Houston Rockets. They brought in Kevin Durant. Super interesting team. What do you see for the Rockets?
let me ask you, what do you think Durant's got left?
We talked about a couple of really old players that are still doing really well. We talked about Durant's old running mate, James Harden. We talked about LeBron James. It looks like these guys collectively have turned a corner and understood that the offseason matters and working out, taking care of your body, taking care of your health and what you eat matters. So when you asking me what KD's got left, I think he's got a lot left. I think he's going to be the player this year that he was last year with maybe a small dip. He's thin. He's not carrying a lot of weight. I think he's going to be as good as he was last year. What do you think?
Let me ask you the next question now. Well, I want to hear you and I'll talk on it. But can he handle being the number one guy or number two guy on the team?
Kevin Durant?
Yes. Now.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah. He's proven it, right? He was number one and
also gotten older.
Yeah.
Can he do that?
Yeah. Seamless fit, right? I think he's going to be great in Houston. I think the biggest problem, anytime you play with a player like Kevin Durant or LeBron James, is the other players are assimilating, right? And learning their place in that system. That is James Harden. That is LeBron James. That is Kevin Durant. That's the bigger issue in my mind's eye.
My thought, and a couple of things come to mind. First of all, Ime Udoka is a defensive coach. How much defense does Kevin Durant have left? How they go over? I believe if you need a basket, give him the ball and get out of his way. But that's going to be interesting. Udoka is very intense, and Udoka, every game is World War III. He's got to win. Right. Is he going to overuse you, Durant? I predict they're going to be the number 2 seed because they will play every night hard. Where some of the other teams we talked about, guys aren't going to play back-to-backs, and they're not going to be there every night. This team will come out and play you, and they can defend. And we forget about Thompson, who's one of the best defenders in the league. What a great athlete. He's just going to get better. Will Durant get in his way? That will be an interesting thing. Şengün, who likes to play up high, will Durant be able to deal with that? You got Van Vliet. The other thing that I believe Dylan Brooks is gone. And Dylan Brooks, if he's on your team, you love him. If he's not, you hate him because he's an agitator. He's just, but you know what? He's got the ability to make a shot, and he's got a lot of, shall we say, guts. He plays in his own crazy way. He's a leader. That's a big loss for you. That's something that nobody's talking about that they should. They did lose Jalen Green, who is on the precepts of being a star, but he can't do it every night. He can go out 40 on a given night. So they lost that for Durant. It's very interesting. I think Houston will do well, like I said, in the regular season. I think they'll flame out in the playoffs. That's my take.
Okay. Which is not unusual for a team just starting to be a team. But yeah, let's see how things play out. At the end of the day, super interesting team, super interesting conference.
One last thing on that, and it's going to be interesting. Ime Udoka he doesn't hide his feelings. What happens if he jumps out of Durant? It's going to be an interesting thing. Durant doesn't have it's very thin skin. And Udoka doesn't take anything. That'll be an interesting situation.
Yep. Nope. No doubt. No doubt. Let's move to the number 2 most interesting team in the Western Conference. I think probably one of the most interesting teams in the NBA, and that is the San Antonio Spurs. They've got a unicorn leading the way. They got a great draft pick. They brought in a guard. They signed a guard. A lot going on in San Antonio. What do you see for the Spurs?
They're a team on the rise. I don't think they're there quite yet. In another year, they will be. They did do a lot of interesting things. They picked up two centers. Both of them are a little older. Luke Cornett really was really good for Boston. And he can play. That's a nice pickup. And then they got Kelly Olynyk, different type of player, more of an offensive player, but two big guys, which tells me they're looking to play Wemby as a 4 and let those other guys get minutes. Wemby will play the 5 too, but not completely. They've got a nice team. They got Dylan Harper, who really looked good in the summer league. I think he's going to be a star. And that's Stefan Castle, who's great. And as he gets better as a shooter, look out. And then they spent a lot of money for De'Aaron Fox, who's a good point guard. I don't know if he's worth the money he's getting, but he's a good point guard. He doesn't defend real well, but when you got Wemby down there, he don't to be a great defender. They've got other guys, Harrison Barnes, Sohan, Keldon Johnson, Devin Van Vassell. They've got a nice team. They're good. They're real good. I just think in the natural ascension for most teams, they're at the point, they didn't even make the playoffs last year. They're at the point that they're going to be dangerous, but not dangerous enough to win, to get out of it, to get into the finals.
Yeah.
I think 4th place, 3rd place would be nice. And they'll be a tough out in the playoffs. And like you said, next year, look out. And also they have a relatively new coach. Doesn't help.
Exactly. That's a great point. And that's something that can't be overlooked, right? Because especially in the playoffs, coaching matters. We've got a couple of minutes left. Let's talk about the number 1 most interesting team in the Western Conference, the defending champs, the very young, returning just about everybody, Oklahoma City Thunder, right? What do you see for the Thunder in the new year?
Do you see anybody beating them?
I don't. When healthy, no. There's just no way they're that good.
That's the biggest thing, as long as they stay healthy. Depending on what Mark Daigneault wants to do, they could be a candidate for 70 wins. Right. If he decides, you know what I mean, I'll rest these guys on back-to-backs and not go full throttle, they won't. That's how good they are. The interesting thing is, and they've got a new arena they're building, so there's going to be money. But the interesting thing is, if their owner is willing to spend in the future, this thing could go on for quite a while. And the NBA, obviously, with that second apron, doesn't like one team being the best team for a while. So that's going to be something that's interesting. And it's going to be interesting to see if their owner begins to spend the money. Hartenstein, I believe, has an option at the end of the year. He makes, 17, 18 million. That's money that's going to add on to what they're doing. If they are willing to spend, I don't see them losing. They just gave Holmgren a bundle of money, and Williams and Shea, they make more money. So it's really, really interesting how good. And then their bench, Caruso, of course, Keeson Wallace, those guys, they can all play.
Yeah.
Joe, a great shooter, and they're young. They're dangerous.
Yeah, that's the thing.
A word, but wow. But that's my take.
Yeah, no, and again, agree on every point, man. Oklahoma City Thunder, and I'll tell you something what's cool about them too. They're fun to watch. I think they play an entertaining style of basketball, which isn't always the case for every team that wins it, but they're a fun team to watch. They seem to enjoy playing the game, enjoy playing with each other, and there's no weakness there. There's literally no weakness. Yeah, I think they're the odds-on favorite.
I forgot Lou Dort, who's probably one of the best defensive wings in the game.
He's called him out more than once, yeah.
So it's just, they've got everything. They've got everything. Stay healthy and they win. And I'll ask you this question. Think back at the champions in the last 5-10 years. Is ever a team, the champion, come back the next year, be as big a favorite to win it again as this team?
Yeah, no, I can't think of it. And I'll add to that, right? When was the last time a champion came back with virtually the same team, a core, not just the core 5, right? But the bench, right? Generally losing pieces, but the Thunder didn't lose a thing, an overwhelming favorite. No, I can't think of it the last time.
Well, Boston came back with the same team last year. What injuries and things go up with them, and that happens. A tough thing, and they don't have the depth that OKC has. Or didn't have. Now they have no depth. But
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's undeniable. It's the Thunder's NBA, and we're all just watching. But
Yeah.
the thing that, again, and we hate to admit it, but it's true, right? Health is going to change everything. We're hoping for healthy teams all the way across the board. If that happens, these are the 8 most interesting in the West. You heard the buzzer go off, our 1 week making the shot clock, not violating the shot clock. We had a 1 week streak. It's over. But we like to talk, and sometimes we go a little long. But you might have heard the shot clock go off. Our time is up. Make sure to read Steve's entire 13 Rules Right NBA Talks article. We'll link it below to get more of his thoughts on each of these 8 teams. And join us next week. And next week's going to be a little interesting. Next week, we are excited to talk Spurs basketball with the Spurs Bros. That's right. We're going to talk about one of the most interesting teams in the Western Conference with one of the most interesting Spurs podcast groups out there. Steve and I will ask the Spurs Bros about their offseason moves and their chances in the coming 2025-26 NBA season. We're excited for that conversation. Hope you join us. Make sure to add us across all socials so you don't miss a thing. And of course, please like, subscribe, comment, share our show with anybody and everybody. It means a lot, and we appreciate every single one. Make sure to join us next week again when we discuss the San Antonio Spurs and their exciting new season ahead. We'll talk next week. Thanks for joining. Next week, we are excited to talk Spurs basketball with the Spurs Bros. That's right. We're going to talk about one of the most interesting teams in the Western Conference with one of the most interesting Spurs podcast groups out there. Steve and I will ask the Spurs Bros about their offseason moves and their chances in the coming 2025-26 NBA season. We're excited for that conversation. Hope you join us. Make sure to add us across all socials so you don't miss a thing. And of course, please like, subscribe, comment, share our show with anybody and everybody. It means a lot, and we appreciate every single one. Make sure to join us next week again when we discuss the San Antonio Spurs and their exciting new season ahead. We'll talk next week. Thanks for joining.